The receipts are in. I use my psychic abilities, my mediumship, all of my clairs, my premonition dreams to do some intuitive profiling. And again, of course, remote viewing to investigate missing persons and unsolved cases. I put what I get on this channel with the date on it, and then I wait and I watch for the world to catch up. And today we're going to update you on those caught up cases, on 5 of them at the same time. First of all, Nancy Guthrie. In my remote viewing, I called the wheelchair and said she was taken out by wheelchair in my remote viewing. Now, last night on the interview room, Chris McDonough is saying he also is debating whether or not Nancy was actually taken out by car. Where was the car? So I called it before investigators did. I also named Tom, the UFO scientist who was visiting, we would learn, with General McCasland the night before. I named Tom before the document surfaced, and Jesse Weber updated us just a couple of days ago. My mouth dropped Saturday morning when I heard the word Tom after I had reported it on my remote viewing just 2 days before I heard the name Tom. Well, and then there's Lynette Hooker. Don't forget, I told you that she was unalived and choked on the soulmate before Ashley Banfield tracked down the evidence of a camera on Hubbard's Island to show that there was activity on the soulmate when Brian was supposedly out lost at sea in his dinghy, completely contradicting his story. But I said it first. There's Anna Kepner. I'm going to do my first remote viewing of Anna Kepner right here today for you as I give you the update on that. And then, well, Rebecca Haro, we're going to update you on her plea guilty for time reduced. What I said was that I thought she'd plead guilty and turn evidence against her ex for Jake Haro for the unaliving of poor Emmanuel Haro. So let's go. We've got 5 cases, 5 receipts, and 1 new remote viewing. You absolutely do not want to miss today's video. This video is sponsored by Psychic Source. And as most of you know, I'm a psychic medium. This is not a hobby for me. This is generally how I move through the world every day. And it's how I do this work on Nancy Guthrie and on every case I bring to you. I've actually worked for another company in this space before, so I know this industry from the inside. So when Psychic Source reached out to partner with me in this channel, I wanted to say yes immediately for all of you because I get it. And I know the difference between a platform that takes this seriously and one that doesn't. Psychic Source has been around for over 30 years. They screen every single advisor on their platform. These are not random people on the internet. These are vetted, reviewed psychics, and they offer readings by phone, by chat, or by video, whatever feels right for you. And they have a satisfaction guarantee, which I love because that tells you something about how seriously they take the integrity of their readers. If you've been sitting with something, a relationship, a decision, a loss, or something you just can't shake, I think it's worth having someone tap in with you. New members get readings starting as low as 60 cents a minute. And since you pay by the minute, you decide how long to chat based on your budget. No pressure, no packages, no waiting for answers either. Get help immediately by clicking on the link below. Try psychicsource.com/motive.means and let me know if you get a hit that blows your mind because I generally want to hear about it. Okay, before we get back into it, I want to discuss something that's weighing heavy on my heart right now. A lot of you know that I covered Jack and Lily. I worked with the RCMP on that case. And if you don't know the case of Jack and Lily, they're two children missing from Nova Scotia, East Canada. And I really, really want to go and look for them. I was going to go last year, and then they had this fire ban where you couldn't go in the forest. And I started to get threats from the family. But I've made mention of it here that I would really like to go and search for myself. And this is, lo and behold, I started YouTube over 2 years ago now, just over 2 years ago now. And this is the first month in May where I'll be able to pay my bills from YouTube. And that itself is a miracle because it takes a long time to build a channel and you have no idea how little you get paid. And I have pretty low expenses, but I don't have enough money to go out and visit Jack and Lily. I just want to say thank you so much to Jewel and Ingrid, who have donated money already. You're backing this mission, you're backing Jack and Lily, and I will carry this, appreciation for you and what you're doing to help me right now. We are at around $200 from the donations from Jewel and Ingrid, but I need $1,500. So if you're interested in helping with the cause, you can go directly to my PayPal link below, as Ingrid and Jewel did, and donate to the cause so that I can go and look for Jack and Lily myself directly near Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada. Thank you for listening to that. Now let's get back into Nancy Guthrie.
We have been so focused on the porch that we may have missed a huge clue. And that clue was out on the walkway. At the end of the walkway, where all the DAs were focusing.
Are you talking about the railing we're looking at?
No. See the walkway hum?
Yeah. Isn't that a railing at the bottom?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you see, these DAs were up on the porch. Okay. And everybody's been up on the porch and they've been focusing on the porch. Well, I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a paradigm shift. I'm going to shift my mind to the walkway. And so for probably 3 or 4 days, I've been studying the walkway, not the porch, because we all kind of figured, okay, she came out that way. Okay, good. Well, that means there has to be a direction of travel. And I wanted to see if, in fact, they took her down that stairwell and put her in a car.
In my remote viewing, I told you that I saw her being put in a wheelchair, not a car. Now let's keep listening to what Chris is zeroed in on right now.
And guess what I discovered? You see this guy with the phone in his hand? And you see the DAs all looking down, getting a briefing from the FBI guy or the evidence guys. Anybody disagree that's probably our evidence guy? Right? John? Bob?
No,
right?
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
Or lead detective, right?
FBI ERT maybe.
Okay.
Team leader.
All right. Notice where they're focusing. Okay. They're watching this blood trail move in all 3 of these photographs, but the one guy in the suit there takes his phone out. And guess what he does? He starts photographing trajectory, movement in the blood. And I thought to myself, I got to find that crack in the front porch, or excuse me, on the walkway. Okay? And I've put arrows on the different blood. Now, Fox News walked right up to this thing and they videotaped it, but they walked right past it. And you can't grab screenshots enough. But the one picture on the right, you can clearly see that blood pattern is an anomaly to the 90-degree blood patterns. John, thoughts, just initial impressions looking at what we've got going here?
Well, you have tracked a movement from the porch where everybody was looking at the stationary 90-degree drop somebody can, and I don't have an orientation as far as the rest of the walkway, but very clearly there is a directional change on that walkway.
And so, like you guys are thinking, Karen, thoughts?
No,
before I
keep
keep
going. It's
moving?
very interesting.
Okay, so let's hypothesize. Okay. They're looking at it and they're going, what the heck, over? And this is what I caught. And it was kind of a, one of those, remember how we would sit in the briefing room and we'd go over all this stuff and we'd go, holy crap, we missed that. Okay. Well, here we are, whatever, 100 and something days later. And we can now say, oh my gosh, this looks like a directional change, just what John said. And then I went looking for evidence that showed that, and I hit this picture.
So if you're walking up to the house, they're looking off to the right.
They're looking down. Yes.
But if you're leaving the house, it's toward the left.
They're standing, looking at a directional change of blood off of the house right here. And this guy.
Actually, it's the opposite. If they're coming out of the house, they go right. And you're going to hear Chris refer to what we already reported here a long time ago, where somebody appears to be standing behind the shrub and the perp at the door picks up the weeds and looks like he slaps his hand and he's directing his attention to somebody behind the shrubs. Listen to Chris discussing this in a few minutes.
He pulls his phone out and they're all staring at this because this is the directional change. Okay. And he takes a video of it.
So just to be clear, explain which way the directional change went.
This way.
So if you're coming out of the house, it's to the right. If
the
you're
right.
facing the house, it's to the left.
It doesn't make the end of the walkway. That's new information, folks, if that is what they were looking at.
Yeah, it's maybe new information for Chris, but it's not new information for us. So let's keep watching and we're going to keep going. And I want to talk to you about what somebody in Chris's group mentions the weeds. And I want to really talk about that because I said to you, the weeds had a significant message to deliver to Savannah. And y'all asked me what the message was. Well, listen up.
Chris, could you just, for the audience, drive home the implication of that, of what you're suggesting? Because you're putting something down, but I don't think everybody's necessarily picking up what you mean. So what exactly are you saying is the implication?
Well, we're presupposing that she was taken out and put into a car.
Right.
Straight down the driveway. I mean, straight down the walkway, when in fact that doesn't appear to be the course.
It doesn't, this right here, see the way they're looking at it and the way they're now walking in the direction of where this blood appears to be turning. If you look at the picture on the right and the upper picture on the left, the very upper spot there, it's trajectory that is moving. It's no longer straight down. That is a tail. Okay. So that blood is moving. That means the victim is moving or they're moving her, however that process is. Okay. However that's taking place, but it's moving not towards where a car would be parked. It's moving away from where the driveway is and along that little path right there. And then I found this.
Okay, Chris, go to the porch guy video.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Go to the porch guy video where he picks up the flowers and starts to stand up and looks right in that direction.
Well, I remember. No, you nailed that. And I think everybody knows it. Okay.
And we here were the first to report there's a second person behind those bushes. And I have not heard very many people report on that there was a second person in the bushes. Now you're going to have to go back to my other remote viewing sessions to get this information, but when I give you the 3 remote viewing sessions on Nancy Guthrie, let me pull that video up. I address these things right here. Okay, so check out my Nancy Guthrie updates and 3 remote viewing sessions that change everything video, and listen to that, and you'll hear my wheelchair, and you'll also hear what they start talking about last night as well is, does the garage simply just go up and down? And I told you in a remote viewing session that I saw her being dropped off at home. She just simply walks in by herself into the garage and the garage door comes down. So go watch that if you want to see what I said, if you missed it. Now let's get back to the interview room and what else Chris says that I think is extremely interesting that I already made mention of.
He looked, and there's no question about it.
He's looking right in that same direction.
Yep. And so here's that question now, right? You can clearly see they're seeing what they're seeing. And they saw it first, right? I think it would be fair to say the evidence folks that are there earlier told the DAs, and that guy is briefing them. And that's why he's got the phone out and he's saying, look, this appears to be a directional change here. Agree, disagree?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
It's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Why else would they be following that path? Because clearly they're following a path.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another evidence tech looking at something on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. And he is looking through this path here on the picture on the right, that little, just before it hits the end of the stairs, it turns potentially. Now, in our experience, we can tell you guys, it doesn't mean she was taken that way. It means that could have been a consideration of escape with her.
Are you saying there's traces of blood on that little path that we're looking at
Where
they're walking? So
yes,
you're saying
this
there's
is the
blood coming off before you get to the end of whatever that walkway is. You're saying it's heading to the left.
Yeah. If you look at the photo in the upper left-hand corner on this slide here, okay, they're staring at this. Is everybody in the chat? Everybody tracking us here? I'm suggesting the upper left-hand photo, and there's better pictures of it. They're staring at this because the gentleman in the baseball cap with the red brim is briefing them about the direction of the blood. They were up on the porch. They got 90 degree. They've got other blood aspiration, etc. And then now they've turned away and they're walking down the porch, and he's telling them, okay, and we've all been here in terms of if you've ever been in a high profile thing with the media all over the place, you could be in that porch and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to show you where it goes, but don't make it obvious so the media doesn't pick up.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you saying that you're hypothesizing that the blood is basically, the blood trail is coming off the walkway earlier? So it's from the porch on the walkway, but it's not to the top, to the driveway. You're saying it turns left to that path.
Well, if you were coming out of the house, it would turn right.
If you were coming out of the house, it would turn right. Are you suggesting whoever took Nancy took that path with her, that she was taken on that path out of the house?
I'm suggesting that is a possibility based on the blood evidence that we're looking at. And I think they thought it as well, because they turn and right there, look at the gal in the middle. She's looking down and the other guy took his camera out to show the path.
Do you still think that a car on the driveway would have been the exit for getting Nancy in the car and out?
That's the $1 million question now.
Okay, so what if there was somebody there, and that's why porch guy looked over there, because something certainly caught his attention, and that's why he looked in that direction. At least that's the way I see it. And so maybe there was something there. Maybe there was something staged there. Maybe there was another person there.
Yep.
I don't know. So obviously it's speculation, but it's definitely something to consider, in my opinion.
Stay there on your thought. I'm trying to pull it up with porch guy.
Yeah. So
While
who
you're thinking about all that,
behind that bush where
Hang on
the
for a minute,
blood
sorry.
appears to now travel to And if
Yeah,
Nancy,
I remember that moment, right, where he pauses just for a second, Bob.
Yeah, and
if Nancy was taken by car, then the car was presumably not in the laneway because they knew the camera was rolling. And I had said that the car was out at the edge of the laneway near the road. And so I believe they took her out by wheelchair to that location based on my remote viewing. Let's listen in.
you can't, I can't tell if he is acknowledging somebody, if he's motioning or giving a little, head bob to somebody over there, but something catches his attention just as he comes up after picking the weeds out of the flower bed there.
So what would be interesting is, for Chris, to your theory, like how far down, let's say you keep going straight, coming off from the house out, how far out the blood droplets are, if you're there looking at it. And to your point, you're saying based on what we're seeing in photos, it's taking, if we're looking at the house, a left turn. I wonder if the blood on the ground is stops and juts left, or to this point to the right.
Okay, hang on. I got to grab one more. Sorry. On porch guy. But keep thinking.
John, what do you think of Chris's theory here?
I guess my question would be, is we don't have information, is if there's any further blood on the walkway past where you can see the change in direction. But if there isn't anything beyond that, I don't know that we can come to. I mean, we have to accept as a hypothesis that for whatever.
Stop right there, right there. He's going to slap his hand. I'm going to talk about that in a second because that's uber interesting. Keep going. First, I want to listen to what John has to say and Bob about this. Let's go.
The reason they made a
Right
right
there.
turn. There you go. He's looking exactly at that spot. You're right, Bob.
Yeah. So the more I was thinking about that, and to your point, Bob, okay, I was like, man, what if we got it? What if they have a car staged away, which means she becomes quite problematic to get her out through the front and to maybe over into another area where a vehicle could park.
You mean not on the driveway?
Not on the driveway.
Not on the driveway. Okay. Let's watch another clip from Bob, and then I really need to talk about the weeds because there's a whole other theme coming up in this case. Y'all, I've not gone down that rabbit hole, but we're going to start going down the whole Wicca rabbit hole. I had originally said I was done covering this case, but y'all have spoken because I did a UFO remote viewing and it got less than 1,000 views. And yet the last Nancy Guthrie case I just posted a few days ago video is almost at 10,000 now this morning. So you guys tell me based on what you want to watch, what I'm going to cover, because I don't enjoy creating videos that nobody wants to watch. So I'm going to try another case later this week. I'm going to do remote viewing. But for now, let's just keep talking about the remote viewing and this Nancy Guthrie suggestion that she didn't necessarily get carried out to a car. And then we want to get into the weeds. No pun intended. Let's go. Okay, now we're going to listen to Bob and Bob's thoughts on this new key evidence that Chris believes to be in play here.
What I'm talking about is that it's been speculated that porch guy had a tarp in his.
Oh, sorry, John, not Bob. I'm sorry.
Backpack. A tarp can be unfolded and laid out, and a person can be placed in it, and people can grab either side of the tarp and use it as a makeshift stretcher. So no, I'm not suggesting they brought a stretcher along. What I am saying is that it is a way to transport a non-ambulatory person with a tarp, and that would also account for if there's no more biological evidence found in the soil beyond that point.
However, I'm sorry. Sorry, that's John. I love John and his pipe. Doesn't it so suit him? I mean, he looks like a guy that should be smoking a pipe. But look at this detective here, crouched down in the black cap. There is a spot there that looks dark. Now, it could be dirt because there's a bunch of those spots behind him, but could it also be blood? It's very, very interesting. But John references here how likely she was taken out somehow with, the help of some sort of device, if you will, whether that was wrapped in a tarp or wheeled in a wheelchair out like my remote viewing. But now I want to get into the weeds. Let's talk about the weeds. Now, again, that same video I showed you in my 3 remote viewing sessions, I discussed, I'm pretty sure it was that one. I've done so many, but I discussed, really felt like there was a message being delivered with those flowers, those weeds in the garden, if you will. Now, listen to this. Is super interesting.
Because the suspect showed that he turns around and he just grabs a bunch of weeds. Now, one of the interesting things, we had one of our viewers at our meetup last night talk about weeds are used in Wiccan and to release spirits. We were like, what? But it was great the way it came out. She goes, do you think if anybody was, in the circle or, connected to Nancy, that she could have, been using, that, or somebody could have been using the weeds, and maybe it's not one of those two people, but maybe it's somebody connected to those friends or something to that effect. And they were releasing any kind of energy from that house, or thinking they're releasing energy from that house. And she also pointed out that night was supposed to be some type of holiday or something to that effect. Now, the great thing about investigations, you listen to everything.
Okay, let's go and research ourselves, because Chris himself talked about Wicca being important on the date Nancy went missing, February 1st, I think it was, and the January 27th, I believe it was, where they believe that other picture of the perp where he was checking out the residence. So let's go research quickly those 3 things on the Wicca, and then I'm going to update you on the Pima County Sheriff's statement that just came out yesterday on this case. Listen in. Okay, so I Googled Wiccan beliefs about weeds for releasing spirits. In Wicca, weeds are highly respected as resilient magical allies rather than nuisances. When it comes to releasing or banishing spirits, Wiccans view these plants as potent tools to cleanse spaces, sever emotional attachments, and safely guide earthbound entities to the Summerlands, which is where the Wiccan believe they go for afterlife. So we've got various weeds here. How releasing works in practice. Wiccans beliefs are deeply rooted in respect and intent. Instead of attempting hostile exorcisms or binding entities, Wiccans generally seek to release spirits by helping them move on to their next journey. Wiccans will often use cleansing herbs like white sage or rosemary to clear out the environment and then ward the space using resources. Okay, let's get into the dates around the Wiccan beliefs. Let's go to that quickly now. Okay, so I just wanted to enter in Wiccan. I put 2 N's instead of 2 C's. Sorry, guys. I wanted to see what February 1st and January 24th, because 24th of January is the date that investigators have said they believe that perp was previewing the home, scouring and scouting out the home, and plotting and planning on the 24th. So February 1st, of course, was the date Nancy was taken from her home. February 1st marks Imbolc, I don't know how to pronounce that properly, one of the core Wiccan major Sabbats. Conversely, January 24th is not an official Wiccan Sabbat, but it is recognized by many modern eclectic Wiccans as Sementive, a historical Roman festival honoring the earth and grain goddesses. Both dates focus heavily on fertility, agriculture, look at the plant, and preparing the earth for a new season. February 1st, Imbolc or Wanmelk is a major cross-quarter Sabbath on the Wiccan wheel of the year. It celebrates the halfway point between the winter solstice Yule and the spring equinox Ostera. The meaning Imbolc or Ommelk translates to in the belly, referencing the awakening of seeds in Mother Earth. Ommelk translates to ewe's milk, signaling the early spring lambid season. The deity Wiccans dedicate this day to Bridget, the Celtic goddess of the earth, poetry, fertility, and smithcraft. Key themes: ritual purification, physical spring cleaning, and welcoming back to the solar light. Welcoming back to the solar light. That sounds like a death ritual to me. Common practices: lighting every lamp in the house, crafting Bridget's crosses out of reeds, and blessing ritual tools and candles for the upcoming year. January 24th, the Cementive, while not part of the traditional Celtic-based Wheel of the Year, January 24th is a popular secondary observance on modern pagan and Wiccan calendars. Its origins, it stems from traditional Roman country festival honoring Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, and Tellus, the earth mother. The meaning: it acts as a restorative snow festival meant to bless the dormant fields before spring planting begins. So blessing something before something begins. The perp was seen on camera checking the location out before the February 1st kidnapping. Key themes are earth magic, protection of land, settling intentions for personal growth projects, setting intentions when you're previewing it for something upcoming, and common practice offering bread or grain to nurture spirits, blessing house plants, and working with soil-based magic. So you had asked me what that meant specifically, and I said when the weeds were picked up, I got a direct message specifically, and I thought it was also having something to do with being disciplined for pulling weeds out of the garden, but perhaps there was a secondary message there in the Wiccan tradition that I missed. Let's move on now to the newest update from the Pima County Sheriff's Office, just posted yesterday. As you can see here, today is June 1st, Monday, June 1st. It's 10:21 a.m. and this was posted yesterday at 4:10 p.m. local time. Nancy Guthrie's update: Pima County Sheriff Department's first statement in weeks released. The Guthrie family are. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has provided an update on Nancy Guthrie's case, emphasizing ongoing forensic analysis. Over 100 days following the disappearance of the Nancy Guthrie from her residence, of Nancy Guthrie from her residence in Tucson, Arizona, several people remain profoundly engaged in uncovering the circumstances surrounding Savannah Guthrie's mother. Recently, the Pima County Sheriff's Department has released its initial official statement regarding the case in several weeks, offering fresh perspectives on the continuing investigation. On May 29th, Michael Ruiz from Fox Digital News reported on X that a spokesperson from Pima County Sheriff's Department provided him with an update regarding the case. Although he did not include any direct quotes from the department representative, he conveyed the information they shared about the current status of the investigation. As per Roos, investigators stated that they are not done yet with Nancy Guthrie's home security video. Very important. They are not done yet with Nancy's home security video, and that the forensic analysis is still underway. And furthermore, he mentioned that the spokesperson informed him that the DNA analysis is ongoing and not reached a dead end yet. Roos also said that when he inquired whether anyone has been ruled out, the spokesperson directed him to a prior statement made by Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos. To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with the same sense of compassion and professionalism. Michael Roos discloses investigators' perspective on primary suspect. Roos concluded his post by summarizing the investigator's perspective on the primary suspect in the case and encourage anybody with relevant information to reach out to the FBI. The intruder has not yet been publicly identified. I want you to focus on that word publicly. Do they know who the intruder is? I really suspect that they do. Current and former investigators tell me that they're still hopeful somebody recognizes this guy. He may have changed his behavior and or appearance. Well, maybe I'm wrong. And Nancy Guthrie's abduction on February 1st, and again, after the FBI released her Nest video on February 10th. It remains unclear whether he acted alone. Anybody with information is urged to dial 1-800-CALL-FBI. So the most recent communication from Pima County authorities events in May. Before the latest update, it had been over 2 weeks since the Pima County Sheriff's Department last informed the public regarding the Nancy Guthrie case. On May 12th, the department released a statement marking the 100-day milestone of the investigation. During this announcement, official outlined the department's current focus and mentioned their collaboration with the FBI. Well, we know they're not necessarily sharing with the FBI everything, so we'll take that with a grain of salt. Now, we also heard, and we reported it here, although some are saying they're not sure it's been confirmed, but I reported it here first. At the very end of that video that was very, very long, the last one I did on Nancy Guthrie, the one that's, well, the last one I just did. Hang on, let me see if I can find it for you, the name of it. Yeah, it was this video here. Nancy Guthrie Case, the caller who knew too much, got deleted from the interview room, and Savannah News. At the very end, I tell you this, Savannah News, that she hired a private investigator, which I will share with you and read right now for you in this article. Now, when she hired them, I don't really know, but this was also published yesterday, May 31st. Nancy Guthrie update. Experts react to report of Savannah hiring private investigator. That's not a complete. Nancy Guthrie, mother of co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, has been missing for 4 months, and Savannah has reportedly invested $500,000 into private investigations. The Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, remains missing 4 months from her following her abduction in Tucson, Arizona. A retired FBI agent has recently commented on reports that Savannah has engaged a private investigator. Well, thank goodness. According to an insider who spoke to the U.S. Sun, Savannah has invested approximately $500,000 on the top official investigation, which has yet to identify any suspects. Nancy Guthrie's update, ex-FBI agent, shares his perspective on private investigators' role. The report has yet to receive official confirmation from Nancy's family, but the Pima County Sheriff's Department, the FBI, and other entities. However, Jason Pack, a former FBI special agent, shared his perspective on the potential involvement of a private investigator in the search for the 84-year-old. I have nothing but respect for the decision, Pack said to Parade. When it's your mother, you exhaust every available option. Furthermore, he emphasized a well-resourced investigator can pursue leads and conduct interviews in ways that complement what law enforcement is doing without getting in the way. Pack wrapped up his reflections on the situation by suggesting, overall, I think despite the undertones and rumblings, that's not a complete lack of faith in the investigation team per se. I see it more of a daughter and a family doing everything in their power. Many families do the same thing. Savannah's mother was last seen in her residence in Catalina Foothills on the night of January 31st. In spite of Savannah presenting a $1 million reward and the FBI disseminating video images of a masked individual on the 84-year-old's doorstep, no suspect has been identified. Okay, so again, nothing super earth-shattering that we didn't report here. Now it's time to get into the missing McCasland, Neil McCasland, the general, the scientists, and Lynette Hooker, and Anna Kepner and Haro. Let's go. Okay, so May 26th, 5 days ago, I report to you all this. Keep watching, because then I woke up Saturday morning and heard Jesse Weber, and it blew my mind. Listening. Okay, I'm going to go in remote view now and come back and tell you what I see on General McCasland's disappearance as video 1 of our 18-part series. Okay, so I just went in to do the very beginning of my remote viewing session of the General. I see him pacing in his house. I see an outline of another figure in the room. He's pacing. He's trying to decide what to do. He knows there's not a lot of time to decide what to do. There is another person standing in the room with him that is not holding a gun, does not appear life-threatening. It is there, I believe, giving him information and to guide him into this situation, I believe. But I'm going to go back in and do some more now and come back and tell you what else I see. Okay, I'm seeing the two of them getting into this gentleman's car in the laneway. I hear must look staged. Gonna go back in for some more. Okay, this is interesting. I see them in the car. He knows this person. He thinks they're an ally, but I just get this flash vision of this gentleman as if there might be a hidden alternative motive here or something. I'm going to go back in and try to get more on that. But he knew this gentleman. He did not feel threatened by him. I think he thought he was there to give intel, which he did, to get him out of there. But I don't know. I got to go back and see if this guy's legitimately a friend, ally, or not so much. Okay, I'm hearing, what am I going to do, Tom, as he's pacing back and forth? I've gone back into the beginning here. What am I going to do, Tom? I hear we have to get you out of here. Let me go back in again. What about my wife, he says. And this Tom guy says, well, I guess she's going to be surprised, isn't she? Okay, I got to see who this Tom guy is, if he's an ally, a friend, and what the plan. I keep talking about this Tom guy because I hear the name Tom. Well, I'm going to let you listen to the last few seconds, and then you're going to listen to just a couple days later, Jesse Weber reports on this. I'd never heard it before. I'd never seen it before. Well, holy crap. Tom was with them the night before at dinner. And when I see Tom in my remote viewing, he's wearing like what appears to be like army fatigue, but it's not army fatigue, but it's got like the same type of pants with the big pockets. Do you know what I mean? On the legs. And it appears like a brownish color. But wow, let's listen in some more. This is wild to me. This really weirded me out, if you will, when I saw this from Jesse, confirmation just a couple days later. Listen in. If I could get more, I'm going to go back in. This Tom guy, I think, set him up. He takes him to this trail, and all of a sudden I see McCasland, I've got goosebumps, looking around, and he can't see Tom anywhere. And then someone comes up to him at gunpoint. So I don't know if McCasland knows that Tom set him up, but I really think this Tom guy took him there under the pretense he was a friend, but somebody else was waiting for him. That's what I see. Okay. Now I'm going to show you Jesse's update just a couple days later. Wow. Okay, so this was reported by Jesse 5 days ago. So literally, mine was 6 days ago. This was posted the day after. Listen in.
And nobody was known. This is completely like out of the norm from.
Completely out.
We've been all over the disappearance of retired Air Force General William Neil McCasland, right? This is new. This is the body cam from the beginning of the search, the beginning of his disappearance. We are going to play the key moments for you and how it fits into this puzzle. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
So what you're going to hear next is what Jesse says and shows us here is that the General Neil McCasland, retired Air Force Major General, high-level security clearances, had dinner the night before his disappearance, and Tom is named in the documents. That's my receipt, and it gets worse because they've now also found a body from one of these missing scientists. So let's keep watching here.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico. Woman comes home from a doctor's appointment. She's been gone less than an hour. Her husband, a retired Air Force Major General, gone. Not strange yet. Maybe he went for a walk. But then she starts looking. His phone on the counter, turned off. His smartwatch plugged in the bathroom. The shirt he was wearing when she left, hanging in the closet. He changed into something else. She doesn't know what. And her husband, this is William McCasland, a retired Air Force Major General who used to run the research lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's who we're talking about. The same base that conspiracy theorists have claimed for decades stored debris from Roswell. You probably heard the theories, UFOs, government secrets, but right now we have something that cuts through all of that. Brand new body cam footage from the deputies who responded to his disappearance.
He has a very classified security clearance. He was the head of Air Force Research Lab, to the point the man's names are in the UFO documents that are fixed to be released. He's in that in-depth, so he has a very high security clearance.
And if you remember, William Neil McCasland is 68 years old. And as I said, retired Major General, United States Air Force. This isn't some random guy who wandered off. This is someone who spent 34 years working on some of the most sensitive technology the military has. Astronautical engineering, space acquisition, the National Reconnaissance Office, the spy satellite people. And eventually, he took command of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. That's the same lab that for decades, conspiracy theorists have claimed stored debris from Roswell. The Air Force has never confirmed that. But conspiracies aside, here's what we actually know about this situation. February 27th, Thursday morning, according to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, around 10 a.m., a repairman shows up at McCasland's home on Quail Run Court in Albuquerque. Scheduled appointment, goes inside, interacts with McCasland. That's confirmed. And about an hour later at 11:10 a.m., his wife Susan leaves for a doctor's appointment. She gets back just after noon, 12:04. He's gone. And at first glance, maybe he stepped out for a walk. He's an avid outdoorsman, hiking, biking, skiing, knew those Sandia foothills cold. But then she starts looking around. His phone is still on the counter. His prescription glasses are sitting there. His smartwatch is abandoned. And his clothes, she knew what he was wearing when she left. She finds those clothes later in the closet. So he apparently changed into something else, something she can't identify. So she calls 911. And right away, she says something that stops you cold.
This is April. How may I help you?
Hi, April. My name is Susan Wilkerson. My husband is missing.
Okay.
And it's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He's left his phone. He changed his clothes into I don't know what. I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage. I left for a doctor's appointment at about 11:10, and he was here at that time at the house. And I got back from that at noon, and he was gone.
Okay, I'm going to take you into the part where the documents show Tom was there the night before having dinner with McCasland and one of his coworkers. It's in the documents, but I'm going to have you listen to the coworker who confirms that Tom DeLonge. So it says in these documents, it's true that Neil had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman for Blink-182 and founder of the organization To the Stars. Neil worked with Tom for a bit shortly after his Air Force retirement as an unpaid, was Neil's choice, consultant on military and technical scientific matters to lend verisimilitude to Tom's fiction book and media activities. And it says after that, after the Russians hacked John Bedetta's emails, see Neil's Wikimedia page, there was less contact with Tom and the community pushing for the release of the UFO information. We'll listen to his friend, coworker, talk about them visiting with Tom. Well, somebody from the Stars, if you will, organization the night before.
He's a board member. He's a retired general with Air Force. I called in trying to get a hold of everyone. I'm actually walking into his favorite coffee shop right now to see if they've seen him. So I work with Mr. McCasland on the Kirtland Partnership. He's a board member. He's a retired general with Air Force Research Lab.
Okay.
And we had dinner Thursday evening at Cervantes off of Gibson.
Okay.
At 6 o'clock with Space Force.
Space Force. Someone from Space Force. So she doesn't name Tom specifically, but Tom's in the damn documents that Jesse just shows, along with these brand new released video cam recordings from the police cams, where she mentions they had dinner the night before from people from space. What? I let's hear it again.
Yeah. So I called in trying to get a hold of everyone. I'm actually walking into his favorite coffee shop right now to see if they've seen him. So I work with Mr. McCasland on the Kirtland Partnership. He's a board member. He's a retired general with Air Force Research Lab.
Okay.
And we had dinner Thursday evening at Cervantes off of Gibson.
Okay.
At 6 o'clock with Space Force.
Space Force.
And
okay. I don't know who specifically was with them with Space Force, but I literally the day before this was reported said I heard the word Tom, and you just saw it yourself. Tom shows up actually in the documents. Now there's a new update on another scientist. Like I said, I was going to cover all 18 of these, but you guys didn't watch the video. So I really don't want to take the time, no offense, to record videos, record videos, do the remote viewing for videos you guys aren't going to watch. So I've dropped that, and we're going to try another one later in the week, see if you like that new case. And of course, because y'all want Nancy Guthrie, I'm going to keep reporting on Nancy Guthrie. I don't know how many more remote viewings I can do, but we'll talk about that in another video, because I think I have some new formats coming up that you're going to really be interested in. But let's first go to this update. So this just reported late last night on one of the other scientists, and I was going to cover this, but again, we got an update. Listen in.
All right, just into our newsroom. Police have discovered the remains of a New Mexico woman who's been missing for nearly a year. The body of Melissa Casillas, an assistant at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, a nuclear security facility, was discovered in a national forest about 70 miles from her home. Police say they also recovered a gun near her body. Casillas first reported missing last June when she didn't show up for work. Her purse, her phone, and her ID all left at home. You probably remember this story because Casillas is one of those several scientists and military service members who have either unexpectedly died or gone missing just within the last few years. Police say an investigation into her death is now underway.
Thank you.
So she was one of the ones I was going to also cover. But now they found her body. We'll find out if that was a self-inflicted wound or not. Okay, now let's get into Lynette Hooker. Then I'm going to remote view Anna Kepner, and I want to give you a quick update on Rebecca Haro. Let's go, because those are cases we've covered here. Now, I believe I've done pretty much everything I'm going to do with Lynette Hooker. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I remember if you've watched my remote views that I was the first one to say, no, they made it back to soulmate before Ashley Banfield, who's done an incredible job in this case, found the evidence to show that, yes, they made it back to soulmate, because you can see lights on the boat from Hubbard's Island across the way, across the bay, showing lights at the back of soulmate, and looks like a dinghy with a flashlight driving up to it, all at the same time Brian was supposedly floating in, looking without an oar and no keys and no motor running to look for Lynette in Marsh Harbor. Well, now it seems like authorities have caught up to Tom's lies, because they're tracking his phone, and they're now looking for permission to go back to the Bahamas. That's the U.S. Coast Guard, to search for Lynette's body. Listen in.
Missing Michigan woman Lynette Hooker will resume in the Bahamas after new GPS data shows some discrepancies in her husband Brian's story from the night she disappeared. Lynette went missing on April 4th after reportedly falling overboard while on a boating trip with her husband. The U.S. Coast Guard is now sending divers to previously unsearched areas, and authorities also learned that Brian had a very expensive and high-tech infrared camera on board that could have recorded Lynette's movements the night she disappeared. Join me now is former friend of Brian Hooker, Daniel Danford, and from Crime Con in Las Vegas, News Nation host of Jesse Weber Live. Jesse Weber, great to see you both. So, Daniel, you were the first one who alerted authorities about Brian's infrared camera. What did they say when you brought it up?
They were actually very, glad to hear the information because that was the first that was brought to their attention. And it was, it's not necessarily saying it, recorded activities, but at least it would lead up to the time the power went off the boat, that it has a self-tracking feature. And so it had the ability to be able to film somebody coming up to and from the boat, whether it been Lynette and Brian or somebody coming to the boat by themselves. But in order for them to get the footage they needed off of it, they needed a serial number. So they were able to secure that warrant and would seize the boat. And so that was a major step forward. But I'm also very thankful to the authorities to be able to get the new GPS data that gives a digital track. And thankful also to the Bahamian authorities for giving permission for the divers to come back. So maybe we can find some evidence off of the boat in one of that GPS path, and we can confirm this. As maybe we can finally have our first step toward the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, you've been covering the story from the beginning. You spoke to Lynette's daughter, Carly. Are you surprised it took this long for the authorities to poke holes in Brian's story and missing something like an infrared camera on the boat?
Not necessarily. Look, I think when you're dealing with an international investigation, it may take a little bit more time. I understand that FBI, they're still looking through a lot of this data at Quantico. It takes time. And something like this, where is it going to lead? In a best case scenario, this is going to lead to clues and potentially the discovery of Lynette's body. I think a side question is how does it contradict, his story, the idea of perhaps that you had this device that was on the Sea of Abaco, which might be different than what he said. But number two, and this is something that I want to explore on my show tonight, I'm bringing on Joseph Scott Morgan, is let's say you even do recover Lynette's body, what condition is it in to be able to give you the answers that you're looking for? Are you able to determine blunt force trauma? Are you able to determine whether it was an accident? Are you able to determine whether this is a homicide? And this is, remember, a situation all the way back from April. So
will they be able to determine what I could feel as a psychic medium, which was the choking and unaliving of Lynette on the soulmate?
While this is a good development, this is a development that I think law enforcement and the family is looking for. We're just going to have to see which way it goes.
Daniel, knowing what you know, do you think this was an accident?
Everything points to it not being an accident at all. And there's a lot of things that, if it was an accident, then there should have been more vocal point of it, of searching for help and asking for the resources to come and assist and aid, stand up for your own defense. And there hadn't been any of that on his part. It hasn't been nothing but lies from the very beginning, from the story he told me the day after to the story he told our other friend, Blaine Stevenson, that there's not ever been a consistent story all the way to the point where he was interviewed by the media, then he immediately left the Bahamas. And the family deserves the truth. The mother and the daughters, there's a lot of people out there that really care. It's affecting a lot of families. But I'm just so thankful that the investigation is going on, just taking a lot of diligent work, and good cases that don't happen overnight. And I'm thankful to the authorities and just for continuing their effort they're putting into it and taking the time to build a really good case against him.
Now, I pinned the exact location based on what I saw in my remote views of where I believe Lynette took her to be. The Coast Guard is now going to go back because they have found some locations from Brian's watch, apparently, that gave them locations where his watch was swirling, according to Ashley Banfield, circling specific areas in the Bahamas. And they are now going to go back to search for Lynette. And I'm very curious to find out if they will find Lynette where I said I thought she was. Let's listen to this.
This morning, sources say the Coast Guard is preparing to send divers to search new areas of the Bahamas for Lynette Hooker, the Michigan woman missing since early April. Her husband, Brian, told authorities she fell off their dinghy during a storm as they were returning to their sailboat. He described the moment to our Victor Okendo.
The wind blew us apart so fast that I think she tried to swim back to the sailboat, back to our sailboat.
But now officials claim GPS data recovered from Brian's electronic devices does not match what he told investigators, and that's prompted them to launch a new search.
I'm going to keep doing what I need to do to find my wife.
Brian was detained after his wife's disappearance and was questioned for 5 days before being released.
Brian, anything to say?
The morning after his release, he vowed to stay in the Bahamas and keep searching for her.
I'm not leaving until I'm told to leave or convinced that it's fruitless.
But hours later, he left the Bahamas. His attorney says he needed to take care of his mother in the U.S.
Yeah, okay, well, what do you think about that? Did Brian really need to take care of his mom in the U.S.? Is that why he left so quickly? Tell me what you think below. Now I'm going to do remote viewing on Anna Kepner and a quick update on Rebecca Haro's plea. Let's go. Before I do the remote viewing on Anna Kepner, I just want to bring you up to date on the latest news on her. And if you haven't followed her, go check out the case of Anna Kepner. She was essayed and strangled and unalived by her stepbrother while on a cruise. Listen in.
Prosecutors here in Miami say Anna Kepner's stepbrother is a danger to others and should be held in custody until his trial. To illustrate the danger, the government disclosed never before shared information about the cruise ship murder. I was outside the Miami federal courthouse as Kepner's stepbrother arrived. Timothy Hudson is just 16 years old. Originally, when this case was being handled as a juvenile matter, a judge allowed Hudson to remain free while living with a family member. But now that a grand jury has charged Hudson as an adult and he's facing possible life in prison, prosecutors are asking a judge to detain him. On the night before the Carnival Horizon returned home to Miami in November, prosecutors say surveillance video from the cruise ship confirms 16-year-old Hudson and his 18-year-old stepsister, Anna Kepner, were alone together in a cabin for about 3 hours. According to prosecutors, Hudson raped his stepsister, leaving his DNA on her body. Based on how Kepner's underwear was found, prosecutors believe it was a violent encounter and not consensual. After the rape, prosecutors say Hudson most likely put Kepner in a chokehold and squeezed her neck for about 3 to 5 minutes until she died. After hiding Kepner's body underneath a bed in the stateroom, prosecutors say Hudson took her cell phone and then walked around the cruise ship until he threw the phone away in a trash can. Hudson, who has pleaded not guilty to aggravated sexual abuse and murder, did not challenge those allegations at this court hearing. Instead, his attorney argued that the 16-year-old boy is not a flight risk and not a danger to others and should be allowed to remain free while awaiting trial. For now, the judge allowed Hudson to return to his uncle's home. But the judge says he is considering the government's request to detain Hudson. Now, keep in mind, federal criminal juvenile cases are extremely rare. There is no federal juvenile detention center. The judge is asking the U.S. Marshals to come up with options where Hudson could be detained, possibly a state-run juvenile detention center, either here in Miami or closer to his family in Central Florida. Reporting in Miami, Mike DeForest.
Now, the problem with that, I guess, is a lot of people are questioning, look, you decided to charge him as an adult, but you want to give him teenage rules where he doesn't have to be in jail awaiting trial, which comes up in September. It's just a logistics issue because by the time they get to find somewhere closer to family, probably they'll be in court for the trial. But he claims to have zero memory of this incident that he's accused of unaliving his stepsister. And I'm going to go and do a remote viewing now and see what I can pick up during that event and come back and tell you what I see. Hang tight. I forgot to mention before I start that anybody can learn how to remote view. A lot of you have made comments about it's so great you can do this. Y'all can learn how to do it. I've made mention of my courses and I've got 5 courses, 3 ebooks written. I'm going to convert into courses and 2 more that I can create. One I started. Well, both of them I can, well, no, one I started. And y'all can learn if I decide to do a course on remote viewing, how to do it. It's not something you're born with. It's something you can all learn to do. Also wanted to make mention of, yes, today's June 1st, and the astrology that I showed Nancy Guthrie being found, the highest probability being found at the end of May. I too am disappointed. That's just an astrological look using AI, and astrology is a guide and does never really guarantee anything. Although the energy was primed for Nancy to be found, I'm just as disappointed as you all are that that hasn't come true yet. Now, let's get back to, I'm going to go do remote viewing and go back and tell you what I see on Anna Kepner. Okay, so I did remote view. I wanted to ask, not specifically because we know what happened, but if I could just see and listen in a little bit so I could determine if he blocked out like he said he did. He says he completely blocked out. He doesn't remember a thing, and that is not what I see. I do not believe he blocked out because I see physical hitting and kicking and an attack, and I hear, so you don't like me, eh? Let's see if you like me, just before the S-ing, and he is really determined to make a point. He's in a rage, and I don't believe he was not aware of what he was doing. I do believe he was fully aware, and his story that he doesn't believe what happened is just that, a story. He had enough wherewithal to hide the phone. Reports say that he strangled her for 3 to 5 minutes, leaving blood in her eardrum because her eardrum popped and her underwear were inside her private part, if you know what I mean. Meaning, I think he was, when I see him holding her down and pushing on her, she's fighting back. And so I believe he probably entered her having moved the underwear or ripped them off, but it's not like she voluntarily took them off. And I think he had a limited ability because he was trying to hold her down. Anyways, so I do not believe that he doesn't remember because he is fully in conversation with her as this is going down, as I just saw in my remote viewing. Okay, finally, the update about Rebecca Haro. So do you all remember when we covered baby Emmanuel Haro and how Rebecca Haro went on camera with her husband to say that little baby Emmanuel was kidnapped and taken and was all a ruse? They had already unalived him. I had said that I thought she was going to turn evidence on her husband because he had prior convictions of abuse that left one of his children like maimed and brain dead and severely damaged. And she, I said, was the victim of abuse, which has come out later. Not that that makes excuses for her for anything other than just afraid to defend herself against her husband, potentially Jake Haro. But listen to this, because she goes ahead with what I predicted and turns evidence to plead guilty for Emmanuel Haro's death for a reduced sentence, and I believe probably turned evidence on Jake. Let's listen.
All right, Ms. Haro, good morning to you. All right, so I understand that it looks like you've entered into a plea agreement with the people. Just very generally, I'm not going to go into all of the details at this moment, but I just want to make sure that you understand the general terms of the agreement. So under this agreement that you have with the people, it looks like you're going to be pleading to one count of child endangerment with a violation of great bodily injury, also another count of involuntary manslaughter, and then finally one count of accessory after the fact. Together, those counts carry a total sentence under your agreement with the people of 12 years and 8 months. In exchange, among other things, the people will be dismissing the other counts against you, which includes the count for murder.
Okay. So in favor of reduced time, they dropped the murder charge and she's going to get 12 years. Tell me what you think about that below. Thank you for being here. We will see you soon. What I'm thinking of doing on Nancy Guthrie is that route that I that I gave you, that I tracked with my hands energetically. I'm thinking of doing that again. And tell me if you've watched all the way to the end. Should I submit another report to the FBI on Nancy Guthrie? Y'all, what do you think? Let me know below. Love and light. Thanks for being here, everybody. See you in the next Nancy Guthrie video. And our new case, I'm going to try to see how y'all do. If you like it, we'll see you in the next videos shortly. Do all the YouTube things so you don't miss it. Love and light.